Hi guys, welcome to Flip Lips. I'm Deshauna.
Welcome. I am Brandy.
Today we are discussing mental health. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
So, it's a lot going on in the world right now as far as mental health is concerned. In my opinion, I think that people don't take it seriously, like especially in our community. I think it's better because it's more of a topic now, but what's your perspective like on mental health?
I am very big on mental health, simply because I've experienced it with myself, my family, and just people around me. I feel like as a young mother, I've always had awareness about it because in the black community, it's always been a stigma that, oh, that's for white folks.
Right.
Or, we don't do that. You weak if you do that. Or
Right.
You don't get any results from that.
Right.
So when you grow up and you hear those things, I've always been that person that I always go and dig for things that they tell you not to dig for.
Same.
It has been rewarding because therapy has helped me and allowed me to move forward in life and accept things. And because I've dealt with so many people in my life, like I was able to decipher and use my discern spirit and also be able to take those coping mechanisms and use them, apply them to my daily life. Not only my life, but my kids' life. And I feel like it's needed in families, whether you may think it's not happening in your household or in your marriage or your childhood, or whatever. It's extremely important that everyone play a role in getting help because we all have some mental challenges that we can address.
I totally agree. Personally, as a kid, I remember, I didn't know at the time, but as an adult, you look back and you reflect. I remember my grandmother suffering with mental illness really bad. I didn't know what it was then. As a kid, I just thought that maybe she was sad. I didn't really understand it. It didn't seem normal to see a woman of her age crying. Like, I can remember her, like, laying in a tub crying for her mom who was deceased. And I'm like, why is a grown woman crying for her mother? I didn't understand it. And as I got older, I remember going to therapy myself. And as a child, I was like, why do I have to go to therapy and I'm not the problem? But therapy actually helped me because it taught me how to deal with the problem, with a person who is a problem. So I'm big on therapy. Like, I encourage people to go to therapy all the time because it's very helpful and it's very needed. I feel like people don't want to go to therapy because it opens wounds that sometimes you don't even know you have. Like, I remember getting in therapy and, of course, thinking, like, I don't need to be here. But as soon as I started telling the story, oh, my God, I cried so much. And it's still to that point now. Like, if I have to get into a deep conversation with somebody about things that I feel inside, I cry so much, but it's therapeutic. Because once you release that, then you can move forward and like deal with things better. So personally, mental health to me, like, I'm big on keeping my sanity. Like, I fight every day, like, to keep my sanity, keep myself in a positive mind frame, and I don't go deep into entertaining other people and their issues. But I mean, I think it's a really big deal. I have a lot of friends and family that suffer with depression, and it's a lot to dealing with them. So I can only imagine the battles that people fight in their own head, like, to keep their sanity. So I think that it's very important to open the door on mental health and really open the conversation.
Absolutely.
So, like, personally, do you feel like you've dealt with mental health issues?
Absolutely. Depression, for sure. it's a natural thing for me, simply because it's an ongoing healing.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process. It can be as simple as, I can be in a great mood, and then all of a sudden it's like something may come over me that I need to address. And if you don't know how to cope and you don't know how to redirect those thoughts, you will fall deep into it. I always tell people I'm high functioning because I don't stay there. I don't run from my problems. I actually deal with them, which in the beginning, I never forget, I used to wonder, like, what is going on? Like, why do I feel this way? And when I started to get deep into therapy, because I tell people, you can go to therapy. You can just be going. And you won't start applying it until you really realize that something is wrong. I need to be pulled out of this dark space. And you don't realize it's a dark space until what? You actually sitting down and someone is actually taking their time to listen to you. Listening is very important. However, I feel like just having anxiety, and these things come from traumatic experiences even as a young girl, just being so into not realizing that things that I faced was affecting my emotions. So emotionally, I battled with so many things, and I never could place it because I didn't know that emotional side of me was underdeveloped. So with that being said, when I learned later on in life what my issue was, I began to address it. So I needed more than just therapy. You need those associates around you, whoever you associated with, to kind of be your support system in all that you're going through.
I totally agree. Personally, I'm not a very depressed person, but it was like, I'm going to say like a good 2 times in my life where I really felt very low. One was in college. I remember we were there our first semester, everything was going fine, and then your daddy died. And so you kind of left, like you were gone for a little while. And I was like, first of all, getting to college was just a relief for me because I just was so misplaced in life after high school. Like I just felt abandoned, actually. So when I got to college and got in my dorm room, it just felt comfortable to have stability of somewhere permanent to stay, and like we cooked and we made our own little vibe. And so then you left. So I remember like walking on campus one day, and like I passed like the counselor's office, and you can go to a therapy session. So I went in there and I had a therapy session, and I was like, the lady was like writing like my family tree and like asking me all these questions. And I cried so much, and I was like, I cannot do this. Like, it just was very overwhelming. And then after that, like, I just kind of tried to do anything to have a good time. Like, I didn't want to be sad and depressed. So, I mean, I had a good time in college, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of the things that I experienced in college was because of the place I was at mentally. It was like I was happy to be where I was, but I had so much stuff that I didn't deal with before I got there, and it kind of came with me, unfortunately. Another time was in 2016. Like, I think that was the lowest part of my life. Like, I had a horrible pregnancy, like, and I lost some friendships. Like, I just felt, again, very abandoned at the most vulnerable time in my life. And it was very hurtful, very sad. And I remember the day I gave birth to my daughter, like, I just felt a relief. Like, after this, I have a plan to eliminate a lot of these people from my life. Like, I'm not tolerating that no more. Like, I remember being there for so many people at their lowest points and holding them up when I could barely hold my own self up. And when I needed that, I didn't get that. So now, like, I just have a different approach to keep my mental health in order. you cannot be around me because you already showed me who you are when I needed you the most. So I don't want to be around you, because what if I get to that place again? You know, like, I don't like, and this is another reason why people don't talk about mental health and stuff like that, because it makes them so vulnerable. So when I'm pouring myself out to you and looking for support, and you use it as a weapon to, you know, laugh at my pain and stuff like that, like, I can't respect that, because that's something that I would never do. If you sad, I'm sad too. Like, everything that you've gone through while we were friends, I went through it too. You cried, I cried. You know, sometimes, like, you cry, I'm gonna make you laugh so you can stop crying. But for the most part, I'm hurting in the inside because you're hurting. So I don't understand how people use people's lowest moments to, like, kick them while they down. Like, I'm big on that. I don't like that. Like, it's very horrible to do that to a person. Yeah, and that's why people, if you're not strong enough, that would make someone kill themselves. You know what I'm saying? That would make someone go so deep into depression where they can't come back. You see people all the time in the city walking around talking to themselves and stuff like that. And I always wonder when I see that, how did they get to that point? And I mean, it's very sad. I know you said earlier that you have family members. So from a perspective of a supporter, like, how do you feel like you...
As a supporter, it can be extremely challenging, because sometimes it's the people that's closest to you. You have to learn how to address that without, and when you're young, sometimes you don't have the answers because it's new to you. So you're figuring your way out on, okay, how do I navigate through this? You know, and this can become very sensitive for me because I dealt with it with one of my children. And he's extremely smart, and he would do things that I would question, like, but not question it until I punished him for it. Or I, you know, just bypass everything that he felt because I didn't understand. Nobody was around, because why they push mental health out to say, hey, something is wrong. He's being challenged. He needs to be more challenged, you know. And I never forget, one of his teachers said, you know, Brandy, you might want to, you know, she said, it's not my place. She said, but you might want to just get him evaluated just to see, you know. And the doctor said, I took him to the doctor. I always wanted to find an outlet. And I promised myself that I would do whatever it takes to make sure I exhaust every resource so that my children could never say I did not try my best. And I did that. And the lady just was like, you know, when he would drink, we always laugh about this, but this was one of the times where they were able to identify. He would drink the bottle and pitch across the room. He was feeding himself at 6 months, everything. It was just, he was, and you know how he was, and I used to be like,
so aggressive.
He gonna kill me, you know, because I didn't understand. So your reaction is, I'm gonna whoop your ass,
right?
You know, but really, like I always tell y'all, he told me, he said, Mama, kids have a voice too.
Absolutely. He called my phone all the time to say that, all the time.
That was the breaking point. That was one of the most defining moments where I was like, you know what? It's no more shutting him out. I may not understand, but I'm going to figure it out. And although we had family therapy for years, so they were like 6, 7, I always make sure. And one day he said, Mom, I'm tired of just talking. Because they did not understand. He said, Mom, I'm tired of talking, you know, this and that. But now, as a young adult, my son come back and he give me all of him in a very special way. And like, he know that I did everything that I can. However, what I love about him, he's still gonna challenge some things. Definitely. And I appreciate that because I always tell people that my son made me a better person. Because yes, I was very wired, I would say, at a young age. I always had wisdom and stuff. But my son was very smart. At the age that that he had his challenges in, I may have been outgoing and this and that, and even just to watch, because he was different. He didn't have as many friends as my other son. You know, so it was because his mind was always further than the kids around him.
Correct.
You know, so it's just stuff like that that have molded me to even respect mental health on a whole nother level.
Remember Garon made that gun?
With the light bulb. He definitely made the gun with the light bulb. Definitely did. He used to do all kinds of things. I had to question if I'm on this today. Or am I, where am I coming to see you, Jesus God? Please, Lord. But no, seriously, like, it was those things, so I'm really, really grateful. I always tell people he has been my biggest teacher.
Right.
He taught me, he made it better for the next child to come, which was Milan.
Right.
So, and even though some days they be like, she's a brat, but like I tell him all the time, and he appreciated it now. He's like, I'm a better brother, sibling for them now.
Right.
But he's always been a protector.
He is such a sweet kid. I love the fact that he's so vocal about how he feels. I think that that's important too, because he doesn't suppress his feelings.
No, he don't.
I mean, he doesn't always communicate effectively or appropriately, but his intentions are good. He's really just trying to have a voice and express himself. So I like that. Sometimes I'm like, Garon. Yes, kids do have a voice, but can you use your voice without curse words, please?
I would always tell them, I say, Garon, if you go to school, they already know what you're gonna do. So they're gonna do it to you. And so it was those lessons, those moments that I had to take to really hone in on my parenting skills, because that was the most important time. And when he went on to college, he's excelling.
He's doing wonderful. I'm so proud of him.
His grades are up there.
Yes.
He has a whole nother life, and he goes, I'm getting away from here so I can have my own identity.
That's right.
I don't want to be.
That's right, nephew. And he did that too.
And he did.
And he is thriving, and I love to see it.
And to thrive through all the challenges that he faced, and to go on to college and be his best self, and no matter if it costs over what I make. Let's start there now. He still want to wrestle. He still want to get his education, and his mind is up to you to find a way.
Right.
And I gotta respect that. I might curse and fuss every month, but it's just like that. You know what I'm saying?
So, with mental health and therapy and all of that, what part do you think accountability plays in your healing? Let me say that. Accountability in your healing.
So, accountability in my healing with mental health. Taking ownership. That's extremely important. Taking ownership, identifying the problem, and also sometimes you may understanding that you may never get closure, and you may never get the closure you want. But closure is walking away. Closure is addressing the problem if that person is willing to come in the middle and be their honest self. Because what happens mentally, you begin to suppress all of your pain. So that's where accountability comes in at. You suppress that pain, you build anger up. I'm not a person that hate people or anger. Like, I'm easily to forgive. That's just my character. But there are some people that have those emotions where they sit there and they, those things, those behaviors, it become a behavior issue. The behavior is a part of mental health. You know what I'm saying? How you deal with situations. So, just piggyback on this last question you asked. Just to touch on that just briefly, being able to identify with what has happened, but identifying it with any malicious intent or behavior, and being a support system that you would want someone to be to you. And that is sometimes just listening. That is sometimes just taking a time out to say, you know what, I found this resource for you. You know what, let me tell you about my story.
Correct.
Let me tell you about my therapist. Because many times people be like, girl, you have therapist. You know, like I'm inhuman or something.
Right.
No, like I have issues just like you. And being able to go in front of people and own that. Because I've always been around people where my life have always been turned up. That's just me. I've always been a person, if you say the fire hot, I'm going in that fire. I'm going to get myself out of it. And sometimes I take the initiative to learn from other people's mistakes. But I have often been around people that have, you know, that they hid everything. Or they suppressed it. Or they didn't, and it's not that they hid it. They didn't know how to deal with it.
Correct.
You know, and I'm always loud. Like you always tell me, you always loud. It's not that I don't care, but I'm just different. So you taught me that everybody is not putting themselves in a little bubble and stuff like that. But I have some people that have. Because I was able to experience people.
I think people view me as that sometimes. Like, sometimes you say stuff like that, but I'm just a private person. Like, it's just my characteristic. Like, I don't overshare. I take the things that I share very seriously. So I'm not going to share my story in a room full of people I don't know. That's why I don't like to hang with a bunch of people that I'm not comfortable with, because I don't know what topic may come up, and it's very hurtful for people to take your story and go and tell it to someone else. I don't like that. I don't do that. I don't like that. So if I don't put myself in a setting with people that I'm not vibing with or comfortable with, then it eliminates that. Because the truth is, if you don't want something told to other people, you don't tell it. So personally, I feel like you said, you have to be okay with not getting the closure that you expect. I used to be the type of person where I need an apology. In order for me to forgive you and move forward, I need an apology. And it kind of makes you hold on to things, like you said, in your behavior. You become very standoffish, and, you know, like you kind of take it out on other people and stuff like that. So I've learned, as I've become an adult, you may never get that apology. And if the relationship is worth salvaging, then you have to eat it. And you have to be like, you know what, I feel like this person is sorry for what they did, you know, or how they made me feel. And even though they may not be comfortable enough to tell me that, their behavior and the way that they deal with me going forward shows me that they regret what they did. And I've learned to be okay with that. Like, it feels good for a person to right their wrongs to me. Even if you don't verbally say I'm sorry, if you just do right by me going forward, it just feels better. Yes. I'm a person who's going to apologize to you, because I don't want you mad at me forever. If I did you something, like, you know, like, I want to make up. I'm a peacemaker. I like people to get together. Like, I always bring my family together and stuff like that. And that happens in families too. Like, they hold on to things that happened in 1962. 50. And it's like, why are you still thinking about that? Yes, it's crazy.
And that is a part of it.
And it's like, I don't want to talk about something that happened in the 90s. I just don't. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it hurt. You know, it could have been done differently, but it's like, you cannot change it no matter how much you talk about it. You can't redo it. Like, all you can do is do better going forward. And I think if a lot of people tap into that, then more families will get together, more relationships will be saved. Some things would just be let go permanently. You know how people just hold on to things and try to stay in relationships or close to certain family members or friends with certain people, where it's like, let it go. It's okay. The season is over. But what coping mechanisms do you use?
I journal a lot.
You do. Yes, you do.
I have about 30 journals. I love stationery. And I love all of the things that come with it. I like putting all the stickers. I like setting expectations.
Yes, you do.
For myself. I really enjoy pulling out the inner child, you know. Also, when it's one thing that a doctor said to me, if you had kidney problems, wouldn't you take kidney medicine?
Absolutely.
I said, yes, I would. He said, so just until we get you where you need to be, I'm going to give you this low dose. And that has really helped me because it keeps you from being elevated to your highest. Because what we don't realize is that one tragic accident could take you up out of here if your mind or your brain isn't strong enough and cause an aneurysm. I take my health very seriously. Why? Because I want to live. 2, I can't control. In the type of job that I hold, I deal with a lot of people, which means I deal with a lot of demons. I deal with a lot of people that has a lot of unaddressed issues. And when you're in a space with these people, you can feel everything. I'm a person that can feel things. God gave me that gift. And I don't take it lightly. I always tell people, when I realized that my mouth was a weapon, what I always tell you, I don't use it anymore for that.
Oh, you used to use
Yes,
it, child.
my mouth was a weapon. I would observe you enough to tell you down to your lowest level because I felt like I couldn't understand what was going on inside of me, that I couldn't handle certain people behaviors because I knew the intentions of their heart. I felt it. And you would always say, girl, your ass is crazy and this and that. But no, like, I really would, in 95% of the time, you gotta admit, I was right. I was always right with everything that I was feeling. So I don't call that a mental health problem. That's something God gave me that I use and target and hone in to protect myself and protect my peace. So I'm not afraid of any of that because through those very traumatic stages of my life, you know, watching my children change and change into adults, transition into adults, that was hard. You lose control as a parent. You know, you deal with disrespect. You deal with them leaving the house. You deal with them coming out the windows, and you know, it was a lot. As a young girl, I had to learn to address, you know, those traumatic situations with being a parent to their father. You know, things I had to address with my mother and father. You know, friendships. I take my friendships like relationships. I take them hard.
Me too.
You know, I be like, oh Lord, why did this happen? I had to learn to deal with those things, and then going through life developing business-ships, learning how to trust people that I'm doing business with. Not trusting them, you know, moving in a certain angle so I won't get knifed or stabbed. It still happens, but those situations I had to learn how to deal with to make me a better businesswoman. So because I deal with people every day, your mental health is always on the line.
Right.
Again, having accountability partners, having somebody that you don't want to really bleed out on them, but just having that reciprocity. I could come to you and say, hey, you know, this, that, and the third, and I could blow up and you be sitting on the phone like, this is a crazy motherfucker. But go ahead.
Sometimes I be like, I'm not going to say anything today, friend. I'm just going to listen. And then sometimes I'm like, girl, go sit down.
But I am that friend, and I'm that person that, you know, I take my situations to the people that's very dear to me because I have to talk things out. So I tell people all the time, my best friend gonna know your business, especially if you did me something, because I got to tell her
that's
so she
different.
Understand. No, but I'm just saying who I am. I gotta make sure that I didn't do nothing wrong. You know how I am. I gotta make sure I didn't do nothing wrong. I need this addressed because I've had so many situations with people because of my strong personality, because of who I am, or sometimes they go off of the things that you possess. You know, you become looked at as if flawless at times in certain people's eyes, and I always say no. I'm a human.
Right.
I don't care. I'm the same person who y'all see on social media.
Off. Correct.
I'm that person.
That's important.
I'm very authentic. I'm very straightforward. I'm very organic. You know, I love who I love, and I love people who don't love me. So, you know, and I do. I do. I don't have a problem with loving them because guess what? I feel like that can push them to be a better them.
Possibly.
It really it's true. You know how I am. I forgive, and it's not like I want to forgive. It just ease up off me. You know, some things I feel like I should have set boundaries on. You taught me that.
I love a boundary.
You know, and
I will put you in a box and build a whole fence around you until
And
you
I'm
get your
still
mind
on
right.
it.
That's how I keep my sanity. Like, boundaries is a coping mechanism for me. Like,
It is.
I cannot give you 100% access to my emotions. If I do, I might hurt you. You know, that's just how I feel. Another coping mechanism for me, I ride in silence in my car. Sometimes I just don't want to hear no noise. No music. It makes me emotional. Like, after 2016, I probably didn't listen to a love song till 2020. Seriously. Like, I listened to trap music or I rode in silence. Like, I just wasn't in a space to feel any of those emotions of love or any of that. And then, you know, we're riding in silence and prayer. Like, I'm in a much better space. Like, I'm open to love, I guess. I don't know. But it's just, whatever helps you, that's what you need to do. Whether it's riding in silence, whether it's journaling, whether it's getting up early in the morning, putting lipstick on to walk in the French Quarter, whatever makes you push through, that's what you need to do. I wasn't talking about your friend. I was just speaking hypothetically. If that's what you need to do for yourself, go ahead on and do it. But seriously, whatever it takes, like, I'm all about people being happy. And that's important. Like, people focus on material things. I mean, if you watch the news, celebrities are killing themselves and overdosing. It's an all-time high, and it's been going on. But it's like, that just shows you that money does not buy happiness. Everybody wants financial freedom. Everybody wants stability. Everybody wants to live a life of luxury. But I feel like social media is focusing more on those things than actually healing.
Yes.
And it's really taking a direction that's not helpful at all, because first of all, it's an illusion to the young kids to think that if you attain all of these things, you're going to live your best life. But these are kids who are dealing with things traumatic that happened in their life, and before they got all of this fame, they didn't deal with that.
Yeah, I think they missing the reality of things. Not think I know this.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes have to tap my son on the shoulder. Hold on, I'm really making ways out of no ways. You know, and some ways, some days I wake up, my life is different.
Yes.
And yours gonna be like that too. I always tell them, you know, when I went to college, I didn't go all because I wanted a degree. Mm-hmm. I went because I needed to buy milk, clothes, shoes. It's plenty of days my financial aid pulled me through as a mother.
Okay, as a human.
Yes, as a human, for real.
To eat.
So I remember when my daddy died, I had to figure it out. I went to college to renovate my house. Mm-hmm. Thank God I did and renovated it so that another family could stay in there. Mm-hmm. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Those people wasn't even paying me rent. Mm-hmm. But I knew that they needed a place to stay. So when I did that, not knowing what I really was doing, even though I got 2 sons at home, I'm my grandma holding the ship down, my auntie sometimes, but I knew then I was special. Mm-hmm. Because when the storm hit, everything worked out in my favor.
Did.
You know what I'm saying? All my bills, you know, was in my name, and just everything that needed to take that shift. When I always say my daddy left a foundation, he did. Mm-hmm. But I had so much of depth. 18 years old, family.
You had work to do.
I had work to do.
You
don't know what a person have to go through to maintain their lifestyle while having 2 kids.
Correct.
And I really held it down. Real life responsibilities. And I always tell my children, I didn't go to school partially all because, I need a degree, this and that. Society say, you need a degree, you get a degree and you barely can find a job. In fact, you can't. In fact, right now they're doing 10 duties under one job title. with less
For
money.
this much money.
And so you begin to question all of that. So I do thank God that I went to school to renovate my home. You know what I'm saying? I do thank God that my children were able to see me graduate. That's beautiful, but it ain't for everybody.
It's not.
You know,
And that's okay.
I always say I appreciate my son. He said, "Man, I'm going to find a job." He got a man job. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciated him for that because I make them experience life for real.
As you
Because
should.
I did. And people say, "Oh, you know, I don't want my children to go through what I've been through and all that." That's why when they get it, they don't keep it. They can't maintain it. That life that my daddy left me allowed me to maintain, learn how to maintain. Yes, I was very young. I had no financial literacy, zero.
Same.
You know, so I say to myself, now looking back, I don't want my children to feel like I'm just going to make this easy path for them because that's not realistic.
It's not.
It's not that I don't want them to have an easy life. No, my life is for real, so yours got to be.
It needs to be. It builds character. I definitely agree with that. We both worked in high school. My dad made me pay my cell phone bill every month faithfully. He never let me slide. Even if we were not speaking, he's gonna put that phone bill on the bed like, "Baby, your bill is due. You have to pay it." You know, like, and I didn't like it at the time. I didn't want to do that at the time, but it built character. It made me who I am today. Every struggle that I ever been through and sometimes still go through, it builds character. So, I mean, all of that plays a part in healthy mental stability.
Yes.
It's important. It needs to be addressed more. I think society would be a better place if we addressed it and dealt with it and actually put the work in for ourselves and other people. And hopefully society will do another little shift and it can be more positive and rewarding for people versus this illusion of life that really does not exist.
Yeah. And we just have to remain honest with family, honest with ourselves. Because if not, that draws you right back into those dark spaces.
Same
People don't
pattern.
realize it. So just breaking a cycle, like I've always said, even when we did our floral shoot one time, it was called Changing the Narrative. And right now we are at a point where we need to change the narrative.
Absolutely.
Once again.
Absolutely.
And this is an ongoing cycle, generations and generations to come. And I do feel that this generation for sure have had a lot more resources than we ever had.
Correct.
So that wraps up our session.
Yes.
This has been amazing
Yes.
spending this time with you. And thank you.